The first round of the NBA playoffs are just about wrapping up at this point. Three teams have advanced, the three top seeds in the Western Conference. And no, those two young teams are not frauds. But today, I still want to acknowledge the great players and performances we've had in this first round so far. So today, I'm going to be giving you a top 10 list, plenty of honorable mentions. So if you enjoy, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think in the comments. But let's get into it. Kicking off here with that honorable mention that I was talking about, we have a rap sheet here with Tyrese Maxey for the Philadelphia 76ers. Crazy he didn't make the list. If he didn't make the list, he's right outside. Same with Rudy Gobert. For the Thunder, Chet Holmgren, J-Dub, those guys have had great playoff performances so far. Damian Lillard, but I'm only talking about the first half of games with Damian Lillard. He's been averaging like 30 plus in the first half alone. He's been electric. Chris Middleton in games 3 and even game 4, he had really good outings. So shout out to Chris Middleton. But that game 3, when he hit those two crazy shots late in the game to force it to overtime, Chris Middleton was on a different planet at the moment, and he's doing all he can to help this team survive. But they're down 3-1, and he's dealing with some injuries. Jason Tatum and Derek White. Jason Tatum, of course, definitely had an argument, right? Best player on the team that is about to advance to the second round. But nobody on the Celtics team has really stood out so far outside of Derek White, who just had 38 points last night. Derek White has been amazing, and he's just one of those underrated X factors that is going to take this team possibly to the NBA Finals and to win it. For the Orlando Magic, they've been coming on strong. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, even Mo Wagner. These are just three guys that have embraced this mentality of we're going to punch the Cavaliers in the face, and we're going to see how they react. The Cavaliers, well, that's exactly how we got eliminated last year. We just don't bounce back, once we face adversity. And it's strange because a team that is in Cleveland doesn't embody the city of Cleveland. Regardless, Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, they are the two leaders of a team that might now get out of the first round. Jared Allen for the Cavaliers, as he's been our best player this postseason. And Michael Porter Jr. is an honorable mention for the Denver Nuggets. Now, when we get into this top 10, I do want to preface by saying my criteria was simply, of course, you had to have great individual stats, great individual moments, and team success matters. We have a tie at number 10, two different players, and one of those guys is Jamal Murray, right? This is the guy that's averaging 23.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 7 assists, and he's had 2 game-winning shots. So you're going to sit there and ask me, Owen, how is this guy not higher on the list? He might have the most impact on his team's success so far in the postseason. Again, saying he has 2 game-winning shots at the buzzer, well, you have a great argument. But for the individual aspect that other players have been more consistent throughout this postseason, or they've just had a bigger impact on their team, I gave the edge to about 10 other players. But Jamal Murray definitely has an argument if you want to have him as high as maybe top 5. As long as they have these graphics made for them, they have an argument to be anywhere, to shuffle anywhere on this list. So if you have Jamal Murray top 3, so be it. I'm not going to argue with you too much. But again, 2 game-winning shots. Jamal Murray hasn't been the most consistent in those 5 games. But again, throughout those 5 games, even though he struggled, he's had 2 of the biggest shots in the series, and he's the biggest reason why this team has advanced to the second round of the playoffs outside of Nikola Jokic. But the other guy at number 10 is Pascal Siakam. He's averaging a team high 26 points, 11 rebounds here in the postseason so far. And his biggest moment is really just in the first 2 games of this series. He had 2 straight games of 36 plus points and 11 plus rebounds. That is absurd production out of a guy that you just traded for on a whim at the midseason mark. But Pascal has been the best player here for the Indiana Pacers. And hey, I would have said this guy's averages definitely took a hit in game 4. Because there were so many times in that Pacers and Bucks game where he had the favorable matchup. He had a guard switched onto him with the pick and roll, or he just got down and he had just had a favorable matchup, however that came about, whether if it was in transition or, a switch offensively. And he just wasn't getting the basketball, whether Tyrese Halliburton wasn't looking his way or other teammates as well. Pascal, there were so many times he had his hand up and he wanted the ball, calling for it because he had a favorable matchup. And he just wasn't getting the basketball. So, again, his averages definitely took a hit. Maybe it needs to be a Tyrese Halliburton or a Miles Turner. But as far as those first 2 to 3 games or so of the series, I don't want it to go unnoticed. Pascal's been amazing, and he is tied for the number 10 spot so far. At number 9, LeBron James. He's averaging just about a team high 27.5 points a game, and just about 7 rebounds and 9 assists. His moments so far, I think the moment that we're going to remember from this postseason from LeBron James is it's just basketball, right? His quote after game 3 when they were down 3-0. Of course, that was right before they got a game. And then eventually Jamal Murray came to play in game 5, especially late in that ball game. But LeBron has had an individually great postseason, though they were 1-4, and they ultimately are eliminated so far in this postseason. And again, if they were still in the fight, LeBron would be higher on this list, but they are ultimately already out of the race. They're not winning, and of course, that's the most important thing here in the postseason. But individually, the effort that LeBron gave was amazing, right? He was a big reason why this Lakers team led for 90% of the series. They just couldn't close out the games, and whether if that was LeBron or the coaching mistakes, which a majority of it was, it's just this team couldn't pull it together to close out the defending champions. But again, individually, LeBron James had a great series, and I just don't want you guys at home to take this for granted. Not that you were, but if you were, let's not take this for granted. This man is almost 40 years old. And for my entire lifetime, for 21 years, this guy has been dominating the sport of basketball, and he's arguably the greatest to ever lace them up. I don't know how many more postseasons we're going to get for LeBron James. I don't know how many more chances we're going to get for him to go far into the postseason. But for the time that we have him, I'm going to cherish every single moment. And as of right now, more relevantly, he's number 9 on my postseason player rankings as far as the first round. At number 8, Luka Doncic. And yes, he, should definitely be higher, right? Games 1 and 2, he was amazing. Game 3, he even showed a lot of flashes. But in game 4, and really in the last 2 games, he's been dealing with this injury, and that's definitely hurt some of his production. But again, 29, 10, 8.5 assists a game. This dude, even though he's been hobbled, is still almost averaging a 30-point triple-double. That goes to show you how talented Luka Doncic is. But again, this team is 2-2 right now, and they are playing a team that seemingly is better without Kawhi Leonard, which is kind of ironic, right? Kawhi is, when healthy, a top 15, 20 player in the world. But Luka Doncic has still been amazing, right? He's just been dealing with a little bit of an injury, and quite frankly, I think his teammate has had just a little bit of a better postseason outing so far in Kyrie Irving at number 7. Again, he's not averaging the statistical stats of Luka Doncic, but Kyrie had a 40-point game 4 in their attempt to come back down 31 points against the Clippers. But Kyrie's had multiple 20-point quarters in this series. He's just been amazing. And again, Luka even came to the podium, the presser, and said, I'm not helping him enough. To me, Kyrie, I have a bobblehead back here. I'll even show you of the 2016 Kyrie Irving finals. Of course, he was amazing for us Cavaliers fans there in 2016 in that historic comeback. But Kyrie's one of my favorite players of all time, and so is Luka Doncic. But Kyrie's just been amazing, and honestly, I'll say he might be playing the best basketball of his career at the moment for the Dallas Mavericks, both offensively and defensively. And I just think that I want to give him his flowers. He goes at number 7 for me as far as this first round postseason. At number 6, it is Joel Embiid. Statistically, one of the best. But again, record-wise, he's not winning as much as some of the guys above him, of course, outside of one guy. But 35 points a game, 9.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists. It's crazy the numbers that Joel Embiid is putting up. He was going to be the runaway MVP if he stayed healthy in the postseason or in the regular season, excuse me. And if they didn't implement that new rule this year, Joel Embiid might have been our MVP, even though he missed a good chunk of time. But he had crazy stats in the regular season, and we're like, okay, if he can give us 31 points a game in the postseason, we're going to be good. But he's even elevated his game in the postseason against this tough Knicks defense, where all the focus is on Joel Embiid. Now, how he gets his points, that's another thing. A lot of people are frustrated with his foul baiting tactics, but Joel Embiid is dominant. And if I was an offensive player at the NBA level in the postseason, if I know how to manipulate the refs and get those foul calls, I'm going to do that. This is a sport where we're all trying to win, especially we're all trying to be great and win at the highest level. If I'm Joel Embiid, I'm doing the same thing, especially because he's a big man and he gets hacked 90% of the time. So I'm taking advantage of the refs as much as I possibly can. But again, he had a 50-point game 3 in a much-needed win. They didn't get game 4, and for that reason, they're down 1-3. Game 5 takes place tonight as of the recording of this video. So I'm very excited to see Joel Embiid. One thing I can promise you, though, I'm betting the over on Joel Embiid's points. Whether if it's 33, 43, 53, I'm betting the over on Joel Embiid to keep this team alive here in Game 5 tonight. At number 5, it is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Counting stats-wise, he doesn't have any business being ahead of 6, 7, or 8. However, Shai Gilgeous is the best player and the leader of a team that has already advanced to the second round of the playoffs. So again, he's kind of a merchant of when I'm recording this video, but Shai has still been an amazing player. 27 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. And this dude doesn't have exactly one specific great moment that we're going to remember so far. Again, so far, because this team is it looks hungry and they look destined to make it pretty far in the playoffs. This is a guy that just overall late in games, especially in some of these games that have been close in game 1 and even this past game in game 4, he just makes big play after big play, and he's just always, okay, our team's on a drought. We can't score the ball. Give me the ball and get out the way. I'm going to go make something happen. That's just what Shai has always been great at all season, and he's doing it yet again here in the postseason. So shout out to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, leading the youngest team in basketball to a 4-0 sweep, and they're destined to take on the Mavericks or the Clippers in the second round. But Shai at number 5, I like that pick. At number 4, Anthony Davis, and this might be controversial because his team is already out of the playoffs. But this is my one exception to the rule because we all have those. Anthony Davis averaging just about 28 points, 16 rebounds, and 2 blocks a game. His moment this series was just his overall aggression from start to finish, attacking Jokic, getting him, wearing him out, I guess kind of giving other teams the blueprint on how to beat this Nuggets team. However, the other teams don't have Anthony Davis unless you run into a big of the caliber of a Joel Embiid, which is unlikely. The Nuggets aren't going to have to deal with these issues going forward as far as these bigs that are going to consistently attack Jokic and tire him out. Who knows? Maybe Karl-Anthony Towns can have a blast to the past in the second round of the postseason. But for Anthony Davis, again, his overall aggression, and I know he didn't have as much success winning-wise as other players on this list, but his just overall impact on this Lakers team was tremendous. And overall, he was the best player on this Lakers team here in the first round of the playoffs. Again, winning wasn't there, but individual statistics and impact goes a long way for Anthony Davis. Even though we sold my parlay last night, I still want to show him his flowers at number 4 for the Los Angeles Lakers. At number 3, Anthony Edwards. He could have been number 2. You could argue he's number 1 in the postseason, but 31 points a game, 8 rebounds, 6.5 assists a game. He has a couple of different moments here in this postseason. He had the Game 5 poster Game 4 poster against Kevin Durant. And in Game 1, he had a couple of those clutch time shots against Kevin Durant there late in the game, who, of course, is his childhood favorite player of all time. So going up against your favorite player of all time and getting the better hand, it's got to feel amazing for Anthony Edwards. Even he said it was the best moment of his life so far. So shout out to Anthony Edwards, right? A tremendous postseason player. He was last year when he did something LeBron James and Anthony Davis couldn't do, as Anthony Edwards, with not a lot of help around him last postseason, got a game off of the Denver Nuggets. And of course, the Denver Nuggets are the team he's going to face here in the second round of the playoffs. It's going to be the series of the playoffs, in my opinion. Unless Denver and Boston match up, it's going to be the series that we remember from this playoffs as far as the Timberwolves versus the Denver Nuggets. Both teams are red hot, and Anthony Edwards doesn't look like he can be stopped at the moment. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's scoring 15 points or if he's giving you 30. This is a guy that, his impact there on both sides of the ball is felt. And of course, Rudy Gobert is playing really good basketball. Anthony Edwards is playing really good basketball. Karl-Anthony Towns is getting his feet back under him. They're getting quality minutes from Mike Conley and, of course, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. This Timberwolves team is scary, and we'll talk about that next week as far as who I think can take the series. But as of right now, I cannot wait for that second round series against the Denver Nuggets. But Anthony Edwards, he's been on a different planet, and I want to show him his flowers. At number 2 is Jaylen Brunson, a guy that just had a 47-point, 14 assist game 4 in a much needed win there against, maybe not much needed, but a series changing win against the Philadelphia 76ers on the road in Philly. Jaylen Brunson, again, puts up 47 points and 14 assists. Absolutely insane, right? He's just been on a different planet this postseason. He's averaging 33 points, just about 6 rebounds and 10 assists a game as a 6-foot point guard, as a point guard who's 6 foot tall. And that's incredible, all right, for Jaylen Brunson, especially because they lost their secondary score in Julius Randle. Again, in my opinion, that might have been a positive for this team. But outside of Jaylen Brunson, this team doesn't have that go-to scorer like the Sixers do with Tyrese Maxey. This team is Jaylen Brunson to score the ball and everyone else to chip in role player points, right? Give you 10 to 15 points if you're lucky. Jaylen Brunson has been the guy for them, and he's the only guy for them going forward. But again, they're getting quality minutes elsewhere. But if Jaylen Brunson is not putting this team on his back the way that he has here in this first round, this is a much more interesting series against the Sixers because Joel Embiid has been playing amazing this entire series, maybe his best postseason series in his career in Joel Embiid. But Jaylen Brunson has been the guy to negate that and to keep this Knicks team on top and to, again, capitalize not only at home, but to steal a game on the road and then go game 5 tonight against the Sixers. I'm expecting the Knicks team to close it out at home and prepare for probably the Indiana Pacers here in the second round. And then at number 1, we don't have to spend too much time. It's Nikola Jokic at 29 points a game, 15 rebounds, 10 assists. He's basically averaging a 30-point triple-double with 15 rebounds a game. Absolutely insane. He's had 2 25-point and 20-rebound games in the first round against Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Jokic, even though this team has not played their best basketball and they haven't always looked pretty and clicking on all cylinders, Jokic has been that steady heartbeat for them, and he's been a pretty good one as he's carried them time and time again back from deficits against the Lakers to pull out these wins. And in 4 out of the 5 games, this Nuggets team, again, had to claw back from a double-digit deficit. That's a mouthful to say, to come back and win those games, right? And Jokic has been, again, the best player in the world. And whether if he cares about this sport or not, he's pretty good at the game of basketball. And this team prepares for Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns and, of course, Anthony Edwards here in the second round. I think that's very interesting to see how this Nuggets team is going to play the Timberwolves in the second round and vice versa. Again, like I mentioned, that's going to be the series of the entire playoffs. But quickly, we're going to recap here just to give you a quick refresher before we get out of here. At number 10, I had Jamal Murray and or Pascal Siakam. At number 9, I had LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Kyrie Irving at 7 and 8, respectively. At 6, we have Joel Embiid. 5, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Anthony Davis is at 4 despite the losing series. At number 3, Anthony Edwards. 2, Jaylen Brunson. And Nikola Jokic at number 1. I guess I should have clarified at the beginning that it's not who I think is the better player. It's who's had the better playoff series so far. But of course, if you made it this far, you'll understand that. If not, I'll have to explain that in the comment section. But let's take a quick look at the playoff series so far. At the top half of these, you'll see the Western Conference Series. On the bottom, you'll see the Eastern Conference Series. Again, I'm recording this Tuesday morning, of course, April 30th. Yes, April 30th, excuse me. But you see in the Western Conference, 3 of the 4 series are already closed up, and it is the 3 teams that were fighting for the number 1 seed in the more competitive conference all season long. The Oklahoma City Thunder have swept the Pelicans. The Timberwolves have swept the Phoenix Suns. We'll have to talk about the Suns in a couple weeks. And the Denver Nuggets, of course, took care of the Lakers in a gentleman's sweep. So the top 3 seeds in the West have moved on. The Nuggets and the Timberwolves are going to match up in the second round. And the Thunder are awaiting either the Clippers or the Dallas Mavericks. Moving over to the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics just went up 3-1 against the Miami Heat. They're probably going to close it out next game as the Heat, again, you can't be in a rock fight if you don't have any rocks, or at least not enough rocks. But then we talk about the Knicks and the Sixers. Again, they played Game 5 tonight. I'm expecting Jaylen Brunson and the crew to finish it out at home. For the Milwaukee Bucks and Pacers, the Bucks, ever since they won the championship in 2021, they've had some of the worst playoff luck ever, at least in this last couple of years. As a couple years ago, Giannis got hurt, right? And that cost them a series. And last year, Giannis got hurt as well. And then this year, not only does Giannis get hurt, but Dame does as well. They've suffered a lot of injuries here over the last couple of years, really since they won the championship. But again, they're down 1-3 to the Pacers. No Giannis, no Dame for Game 5. Very unlikely for the Bucks to pull off a win. But who knows? Maybe Chris Middleton, who's banged up, also maybe Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez can put together another masterclass and pull off a win. As a Cavs fan, 2-2 series here with the Cavs and Orlando Magic. And the Cavs looked dominant in the first 2 games. Magic had no answer, and the script has flipped in the last 2 games as the Magic dominated the Cavs, who had no answer, winning both games by 30 plus. The Cavaliers, are my favorite team, and ultimately, we're fighting for our lives at the moment. The Cleveland Cavaliers, if we don't get out of this first round, I've said it before, Donovan Mitchell's gone, right? He doesn't really want to be here anyway. And saying that we only have 1 more year in his contract, it makes more sense to trade him this offseason. Get 2 or 3 first-round picks for him and call it a day. But again, if we lose in this first round, he's gone. JB Bickerstaff is gone. Jarrett Allen saying that we only have 1 more year in his deal as well. He's most likely gone, even though he's playing really good basketball. And of course, with the inconsistencies with guys like Isaac Okoro and Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, not that I want to see Evan Mobley go, but those 3 guys have been very inconsistent in their careers. Maybe we trade one of those guys as well. Again, I don't want to as a Cavs fan. If I had to pick one, get Darius Garland far away from the Cavs as you can. But again, we have a very interesting future coming up if we can't close the series against this younger Orlando Magic team. But that is yet to be seen. Hopefully, the home team just wins every game in this series. And hey, if we can get out of this series, we have to face Boston in the second round. And Boston, maybe they play down to their competition, and we can sneak out of the series. But of course, that is just definitely a shot in the dark, is a good way to put it. The last thing I want to talk about on today's show is the fact that it is 8:32 on a Tuesday morning. And Darvin Ham still has a job to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Why is he still there? This is a guy that has failed to take his hands out of his pockets to make adjustments over the last 2 seasons. And quite frankly, this guy probably should have been fired last year if the Lakers didn't make that magical run to the Western Conference Finals. Now, I will give him credit. They didn't expect to run into this Nuggets team 2 years in a row. But the fact remains the same, that this has been one of the most talented groups in basketball over the last 2 to 3 years, and you haven't been able to get over the hump with 2 top 10 players in the world, in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It's just not ideal, right? It's not ideal, especially when you have the talent that they've had and the supporting cast that they've had. Darvin Ham needs to get the job done. But outside of Darvin Ham, let's take a look at their season, right? I like to do takeaways for all the teams that are eliminated in the postseason. And of course, we'll do all the teams here from the postseason in a couple weeks. Before the Lakers, you ended up being 46-36, a mediocre offense and defense. And of course, you were about the 7th seed, getting out of the play-in against the New Orleans Pelicans. But some of the other highlights on the season, LeBron James became the all-time leading NBA scorer and pro basketball scorer. Of course, he passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar this season. I think it was around my birthday, March 2nd or March 3rd. And then he also passed that guy overseas to become the all-time pro basketball scorer. So historical season from LeBron James at age 39. Just continue to cherish the moments that we have LeBron James, because we're probably only going to get 2 more seasons at most out of Mr. 23. Lakers, they won the inaugural in-season tournament. Of course, they were turning the switch at that time. They started to look like a great basketball team. Darvin Ham turned that switch, and he was actually making adjustments at that point in time. And this team went all the way and beat the Pacers in the first ever in-season tournament. So again, always great to be the first to do anything. Anthony Davis this year, I want to specifically point this out there. He had his healthiest season as a Laker, period. So shout out to Anthony Davis. Everybody wants to call him Dated Davis and Street Clothes Davis, all these different nicknames making fun of Anthony Davis. because of his availability. Well, this year you can't say much because this year he was healthy the entire season and he looked great throughout the entirety of it. So shout out to Anthony Davis. If you checked out yesterday's video, the Lakers, or today's video rather, he's a top 5 player to me in this postseason so far. So Anthony Davis, amazing season for him. But of course, this season didn't cap off the way they wanted. LeBron didn't get number 5, but instead he was gentleman swept in 5 by the Denver Nuggets for the second year in a row. Overall, the Lakers, solid season, but the expectations were championship or bust. And again, this team busted is a good way to put it. Going into next year, I'm interested to see where LeBron's head is at. Where is he going to want to come back for this team? Is he going to want to, maybe change teams if his son does enter the draft? A lot of good questions coming up for LeBron James, especially here with his son and his decision here in a couple weeks. Does LeBron want to take a year off? That's also a possibility. Does he take a year off and then come back when his son is ready to be drafted? That is a very interesting scenario I just thought of. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. What happens with this Lakers team in the offseason? Who is going to be their next coach? Who do you want to see them trade for or release? Let me know your thoughts about the Lakers. Of course, one of the most polarizing teams because they have some of the most polarizing players. But let me know what you think in the comments. But overall, that's going to do it here for today's video. Again, like I mentioned, if you like those little takeaways, we're going to be doing a full video on that for all the teams eliminated in the postseason here in just 2 weeks' time. But on Thursday, we're going to be doing our NFL playoff predictions. And we did this last year, and I don't remember. It didn't turn out great for me because I had the Bengals winning it all. This is different from today's video. But on Thursday, Amir is going to join the show, and we are going to predict who makes the playoffs in the AFC and NFC, and then who eventually will win the Super Bowl. So, again, it's a call your shot about 6 months too early. But, of course, we look forward to it here in the media world of things. But then after that, next Monday, I want to announce this big announcement before we get out of here. Starting next Monday, May 6th at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be releasing my fantasy football rankings. We're starting fantasy football back up here on the channel. We started in May last year. You guys loved it. And basically what this means is from May 6th up until probably the end of the Super Bowl, we're going to be releasing fantasy football content 2 times a week. So you're going to be getting 2 different podcasts for fantasy football and 2 different podcasts that we normally do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Monday through Thursday, you're going to be getting content from this channel, a podcast from this channel each and every single day. So just so you guys know, next Monday, we're going to be starting our fantasy rankings. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. We're going to go from 22 through 11. And of course, throughout the next couple of weeks, we're going to be going through all the positional rankings, and then we'll get into all the extra fun stuff like mock drafts and that nature. But that is enough yapping. That is enough talking your ear off. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of the playoffs here in the first round. I'll see you guys Thursday for those rankings, for those predictions rather. And until then, stay happy, stay healthy. Get out of here.